If the Philadelphia Eagles are going to trade A.J. Brown this offseason, there are two things I absolutely need back in a return.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. And thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Louis DiBiase, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Look, I have made my opinion known that I don't want to trade A.J. Brown this offseason. I would try to explore all options to make this relationship work between him and Jalen Hurts, even though Jalen did say at the end of the season that they are in a good place. I would try as hard as I can to convince A.J. that playing with Jalen in the future is still a good idea for his career. I would try to, with a new offensive coordinator, convince him that the plan moving forward will feature him in the passing game. It will be creative in scheming him open, that he's not going to see these long stretches of games where week after week he's not a main part of the offense. It is going to be balanced, both run and pass, that they will evolve in the passing game. They aren't going to need to be a team that runs more than any team in football to win games, that he can be a main part of the plan again moving forward. I just think at 28 years old, is A.J. Brown who he was in 2022? Maybe not. Maybe he's a little lesser of a player. But A.J. Brown, in my opinion, still at the height of his powers, like when you look at that dominant run he was on for the second half of the season, where he was for about a month and a half leading the NFL in receiving yards during that stretch of time, that was still a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. I think he clearly proved that narrative wrong before the Lions game about maybe AJ has lost a step. I think he clearly proved that incorrect. Even if he's not the most dominant, unguardable one-on-one receiver in football like he was in 2022, in 2023, he's still a top 5 guy in his prime that I believe, if he is gone, significantly hurts the Philadelphia Eagles' chances of contending in 2026 and in the future. I still think it does more good than harm to have A.J. Brown in your football team, even if he is a bit of a distraction, which he absolutely is. With that being said, though, if the Philadelphia Eagles are open-minded to trading him, and I do believe that they are, I don't think they're actively shopping A.J. Brown. I don't think they're calling other teams trying to get this guy off their football team. But I do think at the right price, if a team called, they would listen, especially if A.J. Brown wants out of Philadelphia, kind of like Carson Wentz did after the 2020 season. Was Howie Roseman shopping Carson Wentz? No. I think they hired Nick Sirianni with fixing Carson Wentz at the forefront of their motivations. But then Carson said, I don't want to play in Philadelphia anymore. I want to go to Indianapolis. And Howie Roseman at that point was willing to trade him away. So in the event that that is the scenario that plays out, where A.J. Brown thinks it over, sees who the Eagles hire as their offensive coordinator, thinks about his other options and says, for the second half of my career, I don't want to play in Philadelphia's run-heavy offense anymore with Jalen Hurts. And Howie Roseman does listen. For me, there's a couple things that I have to get back in return if they're going to trade A.J. Brown. Because there are some benefits to trading A.J., like cash relief long-term. He does open up a lot of cash for this team to extend defensive core pieces. I think A.J. Brown might want out, and if he does want out, that distraction, the lack of effort next year might be on display, and it might be worth moving him in that scenario. So there are some benefits of moving AJ if this did play out. For me, though, if I'm going to do that, I have to get a couple things back. I need 2 of 3 things in return. A first-round pick, a second-round pick, a good, young, somewhat proven, productive wide receiver. Of those 3, am I expecting to get a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a proven wide receiver for A.J. Brown? No, absolutely not. I think it's fair to ask for 2 of those 3 things, considering A.J. Brown's current talent considering the value of that kind of player right now for a contend now championship caliber roster like the Philadelphia Eagles have, considering the dead cap hit of over $40 million that they would have to take on to move A.J. Brown off this roster, you got to sweeten the pot for me because I don't have to trade A.J. A.J. could help us try to win a Super Bowl in 2026. So the Eagles aren't dying to get this guy off of their football team. He hasn't been happy since 2022. He's been miserable for 3 years, it feels like, and they still won a Super Bowl and still made the playoffs 3 years in a row with AJ. So clearly he's not a distraction enough to derail season. So if I'm moving AJ Brown, if I'm Howie Roseman, I want at least a first-round pick or a second-round pick and a good wide receiver in return. If you offer me two of those three things, if it's a 1 and a 2, I'll listen. If it's a 2 and a player or a 1 and a player, I'll absolutely listen. So that's what I want in return. And I'm not expecting back like a first-round pick and a true wide receiver 1. I think there's nobody they're going to get this year that's going to replace A.J. Brown's impact. That's going to be up to Devontae Smith to fill those shoes. But I would really like to get back somebody that's a high-end wide receiver too. So with those rules in place, or at least for me, stipulations that I would need in a trade if I'm Howie Roseman, here are a couple names that I thought of, a couple trade ideas that I drew up potentially for A.J. Brown. The one that I like the most, and I don't know if this team would be very willing to listen to this, considering they just extended Jacoby Myers after trading for him at the deadline, considering they traded a future first-round pick for Travis Hunter, considering they just took Brian Thomas in the first round. But I would call up Jacksonville, or I'd listen to the Jaguars if they called me about A.J. Brown, because if I could get, let's say, like a second-round pick or a conditional third and Brian Thomas back for AJ, I think that's like the ideal player that I would want back for AJ Brown. As a young player, preferably a former first or second round pick that has a legitimate, complete skill set like Brian Thomas does. And yeah, Brian Thomas did not have a great year. He dealt with injuries, he dealt with drops, but his rookie year in 2024 was unbelievable. He's a special talent, and I would bank on him coming to Philly and bouncing back in year 3 to overcome that sophomore slump. Like, that's the kind of trade. If Brown wants out and the Eagles are willing to listen, that's something I would like to get back, is a early day 2 pick or a first and a wide receiver like a Brian Thomas. Or what about the Miami Dolphins? What about a Jalen Waddle, who almost got dealt to the Buffalo Bills at the trade deadline this year? And you know Miami's willing to listen, clearly, if that was the case. And the Miami Dolphins right now are in rebuild mode. Maybe the Eagles want to run back the old Alabama days of Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, run it back to 2020. Like, yeah, Jalen Waddle is an expensive contract as well, and he's very injury prone, but what does Jalen Hurts do better than almost anybody in football? Throw the football deep accurately. What is Jalen Waddle? A home run hitting deep threat that I think would complement Devontae Smith very well. So again, you're not going to get in return all these guys have question marks. Brian Thomas, who is he in year 3? Jalen Waddle, who is he this year? Can he stay healthy? But that's what you're going to get back in an A.J. Brown trade. If you want to truly replace A.J., that's going to be through Devontae Smith and maybe a draft pick. The pick that you get could be the wide receiver. But I do want someone that could be a good complement to Devontae in that scenario. A Brian Thomas Jr., a Jalen Waddle, maybe even like the Green Bay Packers. I would hate to trade them to a contender in the NFC, and I feel like AJ would be really good in Green Bay, and they just got Micah Parsons. Like, I really don't want to do this, but that's another team that might be looking to take that next step like the Eagles did in 2022. Hope AJ is their missing piece. The Green Bay Packers don't have that true alpha wide receiver 1, but they have a bunch of solid wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s. Like, if they were willing to deal him to Green Bay, I would want a Christian Watson kind of player back in return. Another very productive, complete player, scores a ton of touchdowns. He's explosive. He's big, a home run threat, run after the catch weapon, but he just can't stay healthy. Those are some names that I would think of. The New England Patriots have been infatuated with A.J. Brown for years now. Give me a first-round pick. Give me another pick. Give me Kayshon Boutte. Like, I need that kind of stuff in return if I'm the Eagles moving A.J. Brown. I'd be bullish on the value because, again, this is a situation where even if A.J. does want out, you don't have to deal him. He's been dealing with it for years now. And when they won, like, he wasn't burning things down to the ground. So those are some ideas for me, though, if a trade were to happen. Jacksonville's an idea. I would say Miami, New England, Green Bay, the Houston Texans, if they're trying to save CJ Stroud this year. Like, how about a early draft pick in a Jaden Higgins, a former second-round pick from last year that I thought had a really good second half of the season, a bigger body player, contested catch guy that can make tough grabs, a very poor man's A.J. Brown, maybe, Jaden Higgins. I liked his talent coming out of Iowa State. Those are some options. But for me, again, if I'm trading the number one receiver in this offense that's been so instrumental in making the Eagles a Super Bowl contender every year, I need at least two of three things. A first, second, and a productive wide receiver too. I need at least two of those three things back in return because A.J. Brown is still one of the best wide receivers in football. All right, guys, coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles, I want to keep talking about A.J. because for me, like, yeah, I think a trade is very much on the table this offseason, but I really am starting to not understand why A.J. would want out. I just don't know what's going to make him happy. All right, guys, today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Football QB, one of the best online games, Ultimate QB Football Legend. It's a mobile game that you can step into the cleats of a number one draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness, to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the number one quarterback career mode game on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. Sign contracts, train, upgrade yourself, improve chemistry with your teammates. You could also have input on the roster moves that your GM makes. You can actually play the games in 2D and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. You'll deal with the ups and downs of a quarterback career, from rookie nerves to playoff drama, and every choice shapes your journey. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline. Perfect for when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special for our listeners. Use the code LOCKEDON in the game store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend. QB1. It's your legacy. Guys, today's show is also presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks Daily Fantasy. The big game is almost here. I cannot believe it. But we're almost there, and there's no better way to stay locked into every moment with PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where it always feels good to be right. With football season coming down to its final stretch, now's the perfect time to close it out strong. PrizePicks makes watching the game even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups around player projections. No drafts, no waiting, no just football action all the way through the playoffs. They're incredibly easy to get started at PrizePicks. You pick two or more players and choose more or less on their projections, making watching games way more engaging, especially during the playoffs and the big game. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Guys, make sure to check it out if you haven't already. The Locked On Eagles Everydayer Club, all off-season long. I'm going to have ad-free shows for you for $5 a month. Ad-free shows. You become a member of our Discord channel with all the Locked On hosts talking free agency, the draft, any Eagles questions you may have. For $15 a month, you also get one-on-one texting with myself. You get exclusive episodes that I only make for our all-access members of the Everydayer Club, a newsletter for each and every episode, Locked On merch store for our members only. If you're interested, $5 a month or $15 a month, head over to lockedoneagles.supercast.com or lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. So today we're entertaining, at least, that's the key word. We're entertaining the idea of trading away A.J. Brown. Again, I do not want the Eagles to do this. I want him to be on the roster in 2026. I feel like he is so instrumental to this offense's success. They're already predictable and inconsistent in the passing game. If you don't have A.J. Brown, you still have an alpha wide receiver one in Devontae Smith, but having those two together just makes it makes things a lot harder. There's a reason they've made 2 Super Bowls and won one since A.J. Brown has been a Philadelphia Eagle. I always thought of it this way. Devontae Smith kind of started this era of rebuilding the wide receiver core and an explosive offense, and Saquon Barkley kind of finished it. He was the last missing piece to put this team over the top and not just get to the Super Bowl, get back to playing the Chiefs in the big game, but winning it. So Devontae started it. Saquon finished it. But A.J. Brown made it. A.J., when you got him in 2022, that took you from a wild card, not serious contender to a true alpha top team in the conference. Every single year you have a chance, title contender that made 2 Super Bowls in 3 years and beat one of the greatest dynasties in the history of sports. So for me, I still want that guy on the team next year. I don't think he's showed any signs of slowing down. And even if he's a little bit disgruntled from time to time, that's just the life of having a kind of a big personality wide receiver one, right? Especially in Philadelphia. I would rather deal with the annoyance of that than not have that kind of talent. That's just my opinion on the matter. But let's say, again, AJ does want out. He doesn't want to play in Philadelphia anymore. And the Eagles, there are some benefits to moving on from him. I could see them entertain an offer, and I do think there's some good packages out there. But for me, again, it's why would AJ want out? I understand it to a degree. I've defended AJ Brown for years now. His perspective is understandable. It's justifiable. It can be frustrating to play in this offense with Jalen Hurts, who's an inconsistent passer. Up and down, it feels like game after game, year after year. You're not sure what you're getting from Jalen. You can have a MVP runner-up season in 2022 and a unbelievable first half of 2023, but then you can get what you had the second half of the year in 23, the collapse. You get what you had in 2024, which was a lot of ups and a lot of downs. The ups came at the perfect time, but they were a bottom 4 passing offense the vast majority of the season, right? And they're such a run-heavy team, and they have a lot of other passing weapons that there's not a lot to go around for if you're a guy like A.J. Brown that wants the football. And so I get it to a degree, especially after the Super Bowl when you get your ring and, your priorities start to change. This is what happens with teams that are consistent contenders. Eventually, players have their sights set on a big contract like Milton Williams. He wanted to get paid, right? Some guys like Jalen Hurts truly just want to keep winning rings. But then some guys like A.J. Brown also care about their legacy, individual stats. They want to make the Pro Football Hall of Fame. They want to keep getting 1,400 yards a year and double-digit touchdowns. So I understand some of the frustrations with A.J. and the lack of a true complex, creative passing attack with this offense. The coordinators every other year, it feels like, are terrible and scheming him open. He was used as a decoy a lot this year. There's reasons to be frustrated if you're A.J. Brown. But I don't think there are reasons enough to be this frustrated, to be this upset, and to want out. Because, I could see A.J. Brown wanting badly to be Devontae Adams with the Rams and seeing the way that Puka Nacua gets used. Seeing Justin Jefferson and the volume that he's gotten in Minnesota over the years, right? Or what JSN had in Seattle this year. I can get wanting to be in that kind of situation, but AJ, look across the NFL. The vast majority of star receivers are dealing with what you're dealing with. There were only a couple guys like that this year at receiver that went absolutely nuts. The majority of teams now are running the football because defenses have caught up to the passing game. Quarterback play across the majority of the league is very much like Jalen Hurts. It's up and down, and the majority of teams across the NFL are looking for not just one star receiver, but 2 that you're going to have to share targets with. So I don't know. I think he's had it pretty good here as well. He's had 1,400 yards twice in Philadelphia. He's had 4 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. He's been an all-pro 3 of 4 years. I mean, he's been a Pro Bowler. He's gotten to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1. He's had double-digit touchdown seasons. He had a streak in 2023 where he had more games consecutive with 125 plus receiving yards than any receiver in the history of the NFL. Like, yes, could it be better than Jalen Hurts? Would it be better if he played with Josh Allen, or a little less frustrating if he was with Matt Stafford? Would it be more consistent with Patrick Mahomes? Yeah, probably. But guess what, AJ? They're probably not trading you to Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, or LA, or Seattle. Or like I mentioned Green Bay earlier because I like Christian Watson. But guess what, man? They're not trading you to the Packers. So you're probably going to go back to somewhere that you kind of were before Philadelphia, in Tennessee. So I don't know. I just think he needs to really ask himself this offseason, what is it that's going to make him happy? Like, what does he want out of the rest of his career? I don't know. I think you could have it. You could have it better than Philadelphia. I do understand a lot of his frustrations. And when you look at AJ's career, he has been on two teams that were very run heavy with 2-star Hall of Fame running backs, right? He played with Derrick Henry in Tennessee and then Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia. So again, I'm not completely saying that AJ's this locker room cancer that's selfish and only wants numbers and not realistic situations. I said it all year that I understood where he was coming from. But to be that much of a distraction, to say those kinds of things to the media and the cryptic posts, and to then maybe want out of this situation, I think that's extreme. If you're not going to be happy in Philadelphia, for even as tough it is to play here, and he might feel like a scapegoat, but he did that to himself the way he handled things. Devontae Smith's just as frustrated. He has more times to be frustrated than AJ, but he's never been seen as a scapegoat. He's never been seen as a problem because of the way he handles things. So, again, there's tough parts of dealing with being an Eagle if you're AJ Brown, but I think the grass isn't always greener. That's at least my opinion on it, and I think he needs to ask himself this offseason, what is it that's going to make him happy, and healthy, I guess. Like, okay, if Super Bowls, you said it after the Super Bowl, if it's not as great as you thought it was going to be and dominating your craft is what truly matters to you, then maybe try to find a place that's going to get you those stats. But Philadelphia goes out of their way to get you those stats. Look at what Nick Sirianni did for Devontae Smith week 18 when he was resting all his starters. He was willing to risk the 2 seed, but he made sure Devontae got his 1K. Like AJ Brown, they do care in Philadelphia about getting you those numbers. The minute that you showed your frustrations publicly, consistently throughout the year, guess what they did in the second half of the season? They kind of stopped prioritizing or stopped featuring Devontae Smith, who was having an all-pro season, and they turned to you and made you the featured part of the offense. So, again, like this team, they could have turned their back on you and got sick of your antics, and instead they rallied around you and got you the football. So, like, yeah, it can be tough to play in Philadelphia, and AJ has justifications for why he's mad, but I think it could be a lot worse, man. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think he's had it pretty good in Philly. So if he does want out, I think the Eagles will explore a trade. They'll definitely consider it. Howie Roseman will listen. He'll take phone calls. But I think AJ needs to really make sure this offseason that that's what he wants, because they might trade you to Jacksonville. They might trade you to Miami to play with who? Tua? Like, who else? I just think the grass isn't always greener. So that's my thoughts on it. I see it from both sides for sure. I'm very much in the middle with this A.J. Brown debate. I get his frustrations, but I don't know. I just think unless he's playing for like 3 teams next year, it's going to be worse than what you have in Philly. Because they're not, I would not trade him to the Bills. I'm not trading him to the Chiefs or any Super Bowl contender or anybody that's really good in the NFC. Like, I'm sending you to an okay team in the AFC South. You want to go back to Tennessee and play with Cam Ward and have 1,500 yards, but you're winning 4 to 5 games a year? I don't know. I think a lot of receivers around the league, like Jamar Chase, find that reality miserable too. So he's got to figure it out for sure. And hopefully they got to meet soon. If I were the Eagles front office, I'd say we need to sit down with A.J. Brown like this month and figure out what direction he wants to take so we can move forward with this franchise. All right, guys, we'll wrap up the Monday edition of Locked On Eagles. Coming up next week, 2 of the offseason, a coaching search update for the offensive coordinator position. The Philadelphia Eagles have interviewed 7 candidates. Some guys I think are going to get head coaching jobs, so I updated my rankings. We'll get into that coming up next. All right, today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost that you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets that you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. For me, Final Four in the NFC and AFC title, I'm going Seahawks money line. I'm going Patriots money line, a rematch of the 2014 Super Bowl. I'm going with those picks on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. All right, we're wrapping up this Monday edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast with some updated offensive coordinator candidate rankings for the Birds because I'm starting to realize a few things. Number one, the Eagles have interviewed 7 candidates for their offensive coordinator position, and it's a lot of names that weren't really on my radar. And considering there are potentially 16 head coaching and offensive coordinator positions wide open right now, the way the NFL likes to hire offensive-minded play callers for their head coaches, I think that we might have to rethink who the options are. I did adjust my rankings because right now, like head coaching vacancies, there's 10. And Stefanski is going to Atlanta, by the way. So there was 11. That's one offensive coach off the table. So there's 10 left. Teams with an offensive coordinator vacancy right now, there's 5, including the Eagles. So, yeah, at this point, there's 15 open positions. And I think guys like at the top of my list that I really wanted, Mike McDaniel. Although the Lions hired an offensive coordinator today, so there is hope that McDaniel dream is still alive. But again, there's 10 open head coaching spots. I think he's likely going to get one of those, right? Considering his track record in Miami, Brian Dable was a top 5 option for me. I think he's getting one of those jobs. Todd Monken, it sounded like was going to go to New York to join Harbaugh with the Giants. There's also some rumors like the Cleveland Browns might be interested in him for the head coaching vacancy. Todd Monken, another guy in my top 5 that I wanted that's likely going to go elsewhere. So I kind of had to readjust my rankings and take a look at who they're interviewing and what's realistic and then make my new top 5. Because let me read off first who the Eagles have interviewed so far. Zach Robinson, the former Falcons offensive coordinator. Mike Kafka, former Giants OC. Former OC for Andy Reid as well in Kansas City. Jim Bob Cooter, the Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator. Brian Dable. Bobby Slowick, the former Dolphins pass game coordinator. And Houston Texans OC for CJ Stroud his rookie year. And then Josh Grizzard, the former Bucks OC. So those are the 7 guys. And I don't love a lot of the names. One thing I do like, though, a lot of these guys are pass-centric coaches that come from a lot of different schemes, a lot of Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay coaching trees. These guys branch off of. So don't love a lot of the names, but I do like the mindset behind who they're talking to. With that being said, my top 5 realistic options at this point. Number 1 would be Cliff Kingsbury. He was in my original top 5. I like him the best now of the realistic options. If we're taking McDaniel off the table, Dable, those are still like realistic. They're not done, but I project them to get head coaching jobs. And I think Todd Monken's not an option anymore either. So Cliff is that last guy, or one of 2 in my original top 5 that's still an option. I really like his air raid offense. I want to spread things out. I want to use a lot of receivers this year. Jalen Hurts, an empty set, quick passing, get him running up the middle. I want them to use Jalen the way that Kingsbury kind of used Kyler Murray in a way in Arizona and Jaden Daniels in Washington 2 years ago. I think that would be very beneficial to Jalen Hurts. So Kingsbury is number 1 for me. Joe Brady, after the Buffalo Bills fired Sean McDermott today, there's rumors that Brady could be a candidate for the Bills as their head coach to just move up from OC to head coach. But if not, Brady's an option I really like. Gino and I in 2021, actually, when the Eagles were, before they hired Nick Sirianni, they interviewed Joe Brady for their head coaching position, and he was both of our number one option to be the head coach, even over Nick. So Brady would be my second favorite option. Number 3 is Nate Scheelhaas, the guy that was also in my original top 5, the pass game coordinator, quarterback coach for the Rams. I would love to get somebody from that Sean McVay coaching tree in here. Even though he's an inexperienced play caller, I love the offense he comes from, a young guy that can grow into the position, maybe for a couple years before he gets his own head coaching job. Number 4, for the same logic, Charlie Weiss Jr. from Ole Miss. And then number 5, Zach Robinson. I do think Robinson's interesting because I really like what he did pre-snap with Atlanta. A lot of pistol formations. What he did with Bijan Robinson is kind of shows me how he can creatively use a star player that doesn't need to be schemed open, but look how creative he used Bijan. That makes me excited about what he could do with Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, if A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert potentially were back in 2026. I don't hate the Zach Robinson name as much as others do. The ones that I don't love, again, I don't love the Mike Kafka option. Jim Bob Cooter's okay. I did like him when he was with Detroit and Matt Stafford. Indianapolis this year was 8th in passing, so I don't hate JBC, but it's not moving the needle enough for me. Josh Grizzard, kind of the same thing. Bobby Slowick, those are all guys that have had success and have had good passing offenses. They've been a part of that, but I don't know. Those guys don't move the needle enough for me of the options that I still think are on the table. So those are my top 5 right now. We'll continue to keep you updated all throughout the week on this coordinator search. I do imagine it still might be a little bit for who the Eagles hire because there's still 10 head coaching vacancies. I feel like those have to get resolved first, and then the Eagles will maybe get the pick of the rest. We'll see. I hope that's not the case. I would love still, the dream is still Mike McDaniel. I would love to get Brian Dable in here as well, or like a Kingsbury or Todd Monken. All those names are still out there, but that's my now new top 5 based on more realistic options that might still be available in a week. So, again, I'll keep you updated right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.